This podcast is rated S for spoilers. Listener discretion is advised. Don't forget to view our spoiler-free companion video on our Half Past Podcast channel on YouTube. Half Past Podcast. This is episode 24, the movie review of Spectre. We will also be discussing the Creed trailer. I'm Graham Ricks, and here with me is my friend and co-pilot Ian Jones.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I was surprised about the Rousey fight last night.
I know. Well, I was at the U of A game till like midnight because that was crazy, and I completely missed it.
Oh, well, it's all right. You can always go back and see it. It was pretty fun, man.
I downloaded it this morning, totally legally, wink, just to see it because there were no like replays of it. They want you to buy it again.
Yep. Anything else for you, Jones? Huh?
Yeah. I wanted to share an experience. So we're a week late with this. Because our host bought a new car. And I wanted to congratulate you on that. I bought a new car. But speaking of cars, okay? Yes, speaking of Segways.
Yeah.
When I was driving to the theater last week to see 007, I had this experience. I came up to one of those intersections. You know the kind. They've got those cameras, those red light cameras.
Yeah.
And so I chickened out and I slammed on the brakes. Didn't go through when it was yellow. And there were two cars left of me turning left. And one of the guys obviously thought he wasn't getting an arrow. So he pulls out his cell phone or whatever.
Yeah.
And they get a green arrow, but it's like the world's shortest green arrow. Nice. It's like it skips yellow. It just goes green to red.
Nice.
And there's a lady behind him. And she's annoyed. So she honks at him. And he's like, oh, and goes, but he screws her. He leaves her there. But here's the great thing. He leaves her there. Her horn gets stuck. So
oh man.
So it's just going off. I've never seen anything like it before.
Oh man, that's crazy.
And so I'm right next to her looking at her, and I know everything that's happened. I've watched the whole sequence of things unfold, and she's like miming. She's like with both hands pointing down at her wheel, and she's looking around. She's looking at me. She's pointing at the car that isn't there anymore, like it's his fault. But here's the thing that's great is I got the feeling like this wasn't the first time this had happened to her before.
Nice.
Like this happened the last time she honked at someone. It got stuck and she forgot about it. She didn't take it in and get her car looked at. And so it's on her again. Nice. And by now, it's like 9:30 in the morning or something. All this traffic comes out of nowhere to wait at this light. And so they have no idea why this horn is just like blaring.
Nice.
So everyone's looking at her and she's like freaking out. But here's the best part. The light turned green for me and I just left her there.
Yeah?
I left her there. Just drove away.
Well, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
It's like, right. I'm done with this.
Off to save the day, my friend. I'm late for a movie.
I have a pet peeve about people who are at the beginning of the line of cars to turn green and they're on their phone.
Right. Yeah.
You are the leader. You're the one that's supposed to lead people to victory. And
you got to be on
your
it.
Phone.
Yeah.
That really bothers me.
Yeah, you got to be ready to go, man.
The other problem with traffic is it is really, really bad in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh? Why, I never do that, sir. When were you in Pittsburgh?
Speaking of Pittsburgh, it's based in Creed, Creed is based in Pittsburgh.
Not Philly? Wait a minute, you meant Philly, right?
Oh crap! I meant Philly. Terrible segue.
Oh,
this is beyond terrible.
I had
Damn it.
Oh, you have to leave it in. It's just too good not to. It's just too good to edit out.
What am I doing? All right. Anyway.
Okay, so traffic in Philly.
So traffic
pretty
in
bad.
Philly, city of brotherly love, has a black guy in it.
Son of a bitch.
And he's a boxer.
Yeah.
Did you see the trailer about this kid?
I have. I think his name is Creed. Now, do you think that has anything to do with Rocky 2 or whatever? Or?
I would think it would have a lot to do with Rocky 2.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, this trailer is, I think it looks great. And I think the worst segue ever.
Okay.
I think this is really awesome because it's like the first Rocky movie that has like trained actors in it, as opposed to Stallone, who's fine, but you know what I mean. And
wow.
The other thing that I thought was real interesting about this trailer is it looks like they killed off Paulie. Paulie's dead.
Yeah.
I feel like that's giving away too much information.
Yeah, so is all of his family dead?
I guess so.
Because there were a lot of gravestones there.
Yeah, I know, right?
Or is there something we're missing because no one went and saw that last Rocky movie?
Well, yeah, I haven't seen it yet, and there are a lot of things that happens in that one, and I'm definitely going to watch it before I go see Creed.
Okay.
But I am curious about why the heck does he not like his father? Maybe because he chose to die in the ring? Well, that's what happens.
It seems like he wasn't even raised by his, like maybe he's illegitimate or something. I
don't know, because it doesn't make any sense why he would not like his dad, because it seems like he would have been like real young if it's the same kids, you know? But it could be an illegitimate kid. Because, I mean, when you watch, like, Rocky 2 and Rocky 3, he has kids. But I would think they'd be older. So it might just be some other kid.
Yeah.
You got anything else on this trailer?
Well, I was just hoping we'd see the fro at some point.
Not gonna happen.
All right. Damn.
All right, now that we're got your story out of the way and my absolutely disastrous segue.
I thought it was fine.
Let's take a little break here and we'll get into the characters.
Play some music.
Cryptic message leads Bond to investigate a mysterious organization that is linked to his terrible past. This movie is directed by Sam Mendes, who also did the previous movie Skyfall. He also did Jarhead and the movie I hate, American Beauty. I really can't stand that movie.
Yeah, that's...
It's obviously starring Daniel Craig as James Bond. He was in The Power of One, Layer Cake, and Cowboys and Aliens. That fun movie.
Yep.
Christoph Waltz is Oberhauser. He was in Inglourious Bastards, The Three Musketeers, and Django Unchained. Here, this one's fun here. Léa Seydoux as Madeline Swan. She was also in Inglourious Bastards. She was in Robin Hood, and she was in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol also.
And she's rumored to be playing Belladonna in the Gambit movie, which sounds like pretty good casting to me.
Yeah, that does sound good. Here's another fun one. I believe it's Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah, Ralph Fiennes.
As M. And he was in, of course, Schindler's List, The Prince of Egypt, and The Grand Budapest Hotel.
That's also Lord Voldemort.
I have it written here that Ian better say Voldemort.
Of
so I'm
course.
glad you said.
I'm going to jump over any Harry Potter thing.
Yep. Monica Bellucci as Lucia. She was in the Matrix sequels, The Passion of the Christ, and The Brothers Grimm.
Nice.
Ben Whishaw as Q. He was also in Layer Cake, Cloud Atlas, and he was Paddington Bear in the Paddington movie. Naomi Harris as Moneypenny. She was in 28 Days Later, the second and third pirate movies, and Ninja Assassin. You remember that Ninja Assassin movie?
I do. I guess I didn't realize she's the chick in that, huh?
Yeah. She's like one of the main characters in that movie.
Ninja Assassin, pretty good, very bloody.
Very bloody.
And I think it fell under the radar.
Yeah, it did. It was one of those movies that came out like at a weird time. It was like in between when movies come out normally. It was like between spring and summer or something like that. And he just didn't quite get it in there or whatever. And last but not least is Dave Bautista as Hinks, who has been acting a lot lately. He's mainly known for wrestling, but he's also in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I think he's doing more films these days.
Yeah, it does
than anything.
And man, his character did not say much at all. They didn't want him talking.
No, but finally, like a really good henchman.
Yeah, he was a really good henchman in this movie. I really enjoyed his character. Now that we're done with the characters, we'll go ahead and take another little break here, and then we'll get involved into our quirks and likes. All right, now let's get into our quirks and likes here. So, my biggest quirk about this movie is I really feel like pacing is a problem in this movie. I think it dips a lot in the center of the movie. And it could have been maybe because I was just tired because I've been real busy lately, but I was trying to stay awake in the middle of this movie.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong about
that. I think the length of this movie really hurts it a lot, in my opinion. I think the opening sequence is freaking awesome. And the movie slows down there, and then it ramps back up, and then it just, between the second and third act, it grinds to a halt to where if I had a watch, I would have been looking at it, It's just like, man, this movie's kind of long. And it felt that way, and that's never a good thing in these movies. Mm-hmm. The other problem I have with this movie is what is with that Bond in the airplane with that rescue mission? When he was going after Léa Seydoux' character, Madeline Swan, he's flying that plane, and he's like, he's taking out cars in probably the most dangerous way possible if you want to keep the person alive that you're trying to rescue.
Because they always make hostages buckle their seatbelts.
Yeah, right. It's just, it was such a crazy scene. Now, it was a cool scene, but it was like, man, what is going on? It's like he has no regards to her safety, yet he's trying to save her. And the last thing I have about this movie actually has to do with Madeline Swan, and there's something about James Bond walking away with the girl he just met kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have like a huge problem with that. It's not like he met her at the beginning of the movie and it was a progression. He meets her probably more than halfway through the movie, and they progress this relationship very quickly, and Bond changes a lot in like the last half an hour of the movie, and it's almost like it's too quick for me. The movie's so long, you would think he would progress a little more slowly, but it's like they have all this stuff to throw in, and then he progresses really quickly at the end of the movie to the point where he doesn't want to be Bond anymore, basically. And I just had a real problem with that. But that's all my quirks. What do you got?
Well, I've got quite a few. Starting right out of the gate, there's a really awesome opening sequence that you were talking about. The Day of the Dead festival.
Which is just fantastic.
Yeah. It is a really strong opening. But he ends up taking out some people in a building across from his.
Yep.
I didn't really get where this explosion came from, unless what they were opening was a bomb or a trap or something, like some sort of double cross thing. Mm-hmm. Takes out the whole building. The building falls on top of where James Bond is standing. Not only does he survive, which 007 is supposed to do, and there's going to be ridiculous stuff in these movies.
Yeah.
But he ends up landing on a sofa, to which the person behind me said loud enough for the whole theater to hear, "Yeah, okay." Okay. And I wanted to turn around and punch him. But he's right. Yeah. He isn't wrong about it. Yeah. And that's so campy. And there was just, to me, there was stuff like that the entire time. Like, there's a scene where Hinks is chasing James Bond. I don't understand why James Bond is running from a bad guy. I understand, when he stumbles upon Spectre and he's outnumbered. Yeah. But when he's one-on-one with Hinks and they're both driving, I don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
Like, why he's trying to get away from, this bad dude. And, it may have been because of how he killed that guy, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But, you've got the car with the technology to be able to take someone like that out. Why was it so easy? Spectre builds this facility out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
One, how are they getting all those people? They have like this huge staff and nowhere to house them.
Yep.
But why is it so easy to blow up? I don't understand why they made it just go up at the drop of a hat.
It definitely seemed
all this work.
It was like a self-destruct type thing. Like they had initiated the explosion. Like, it definitely seemed like it was something like that because Bond just takes out one section and the whole thing goes up in flames.
But what the hell was the point of the whole facility if you're just going to undo all the work that you've done?
Yeah, I know, right?
Especially since there's a weird subplot with this.
Yeah.
And that is the organization that is known as Spectre is also part of this thing. They introduced this character C, who we don't really talk about, but he's actually a pretty cool actor, plays Moriarty on Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
But I think they totally underutilize him because he's a prick, but he can be really creepy too.
Yeah.
And to me, there's a disconnect. Like, how are they really related to Spectre when Spectre just hit the self-destruct button?
Yeah.
Like, it was just that simple. Like, well, I've been planning this for 40 years. Goodbye. And I have no idea why. You mentioned the scene where James Bond is trying to get Madeline Swan back. There's no reason for Spectre to keep her alive. Like, why did they even take her to begin with?
I have no idea.
All they had to do was put a bullet in her head, which was what they were trying to do after. After James caught up with him. James never finds Spectre if he doesn't pull off this ridiculous rescue attempt. I have no idea why they needed her. They didn't. They already knew Hinks had already caught up with her father, already knew he was dead. So I just, the whole time during that scene, I was wondering why they even kept her alive.
Yeah, it's one of those James Bond movie plot holes, which this movie is littered with them throughout. Yeah. And I almost feel like they do it on purpose, to be honest, watching this movie.
It just didn't seem like there was many of these, and there's like, this movie's riddled with them.
Yeah.
The last one, Skyfall, to me didn't have all of these little issues.
No, it did not.
The other thing, which we were talking about this in the last podcast and wondering if this was going to be the last James Bond with everything that happens in this movie. And like you said, it's a very long movie.
Yeah.
To me, how it all ended was that this was a really tidy way to me. Like they tidied everything up. They made all these connections, which don't even seem possible to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem possible that one person could have affected all these little things
throughout the other three movies.
Right, yeah, throughout the other three movies.
Yeah.
And, really to me there's no twist in this at all. Like I've been hearing online people talking about other reviewers talking about the plot of this. They blow it in the trailer. When Christoph Waltz was cast as this, you knew he was going to be Blofeld. That was never in question. This was Spectre. This was who he was going to play. But they blew the whole brother thing right in the trailer. Yeah. And it pisses me off that movies keep doing that. Terminator did it. It just...
Yep.
That's a huge revelation. And I'm not sure it's... I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you felt about it. I was really on the fence about it because it just seemed to me like they were trying to tidy up all the other movies by doing it this way.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about watching it.
So that's it for me as far as quirks go.
All right, cool. So we'll start with the likes. I have a lot of my likes about this movie is kind of combination of the same thing, which is it's a Bond movie.
Yeah.
And when I say it's a Bond movie, I mean that in both a good and a bad way. It has everything in it that a Bond movie should have, including the stuff that's kind of bad, which is like the plot holes that you're talking about, where there's just stuff that just doesn't make sense. Why capture Bond and torture him rather than just put a bullet in his head, kind of thing?
Yeah,
and
right.
They have the evil genius villain. He says the line, "I'm Bond, James Bond." They have the Bond girl in there. They have a henchman in there, and there's a scene with the vodka martini, shaken not stirred. All of it's in there. It's 100% a Bond movie. Even the car with all the gadgets, and I really enjoy that because I like the old Bond movies, but they all have the same kind of issues, which is where Skyfall, I think, is just a better movie than this one.
I agree.
And so I do enjoy all that stuff, but as a movie, it hurts it, and that's just one of those things. I would think this is definitely one of those movies that Bond fans would just love. It's filled with Bond. I mean, they even have the James Bond cool through the whole movie. He's very suave, and just right from the opening sequence, with him just calmly walking away from that chick and doing this crazy mission that he's doing, and the scene where he's getting chased by Hinks in the car, where he like parachutes away and he just calmly walks away from this scene. Like, all of that is in the movie, and it's really cool. So like the James Bond cool is 100% in this movie, and that's just something that's really nice with this movie. The last, or actually the other thing I really liked was the scene with the chess scene with Mr. White when he's trying to figure this guy out. I loved how that was filmed, because he's sitting in front of the chess piece and they keep doing their moves, but it wasn't with the chess pieces. So it was like this battle between them of their intelligence on what they know about each other. And they kept doing these things, like he would put the ring over towards Bond, and he would be like, that's like saying check. And then basically Bond's response is he puts the gun down on his side and he's like, checkmate kind of thing. And I thought that was just a really cool scene that they added in the movie. I freaking loved that. I was like, that's just awesome.
That's a pretty good observation there.
Yeah, it's an awesome scene, and I thought that was really cool. And there's a lot of stuff like that in this movie that's just kind of subtle, but it's got that James Bond cool kind of stuff going on. And the thing I like the most about this movie, other than the fact that it is a Bond movie, which is fine. They made a Bond movie. This is the first one that feels like the old ones. Is the opening sequence is just awesome. It's just so freaking cool. And I really enjoyed just how he subtly reacts to everything throughout the whole movie, just because he's finally like James Bond and he felt like Bond. And so I really enjoyed that about this movie. So what are your likes?
Nice. Well, I think one of the things I liked about this, which is kind of an ongoing thing, but I like it when James Bond is on his own, doing his own thing.
Yeah.
The organization can't exist anymore. And I really felt like that represents a changing of the guard. To me, that sounds like either the 007 program is going to go completely dark to where no one has any idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
Or they're going to get a new Bond in there who structured under maybe how things are going in today's world.
Yeah.
Which is really what they've been the past 3 movies. That's what they've been talking about. That's what M has been referring to.
Yeah.
Is that now there's this need for transparency and, but you can't have it both ways when, there are people hiding from you. And I really like that, even though they introduced this character in the subplot that I think is a little bit messy.
Yeah.
I really like that James Bond is just on his own, doing stuff without M's permission.
Yep.
And he's just doing his own thing. Like that is like quintessential Bond. Like not having someone and it killed me too because right away they stuck a tracker in him. And I was like, oh no. I was like I sank into my seat. And I was like, please tell me he's gonna just short this out right away.
Yeah, he is.
But it ended up he was like, look, hey, there's a 48-hour period or so where it doesn't work. And I was like, awesome.
Yeah, they did it a different way with him just talking to Q about it.
Yeah, and that was actually some of the stuff I liked about this. Bond is done. He still has to rely on people.
Yeah.
And, really, Moneypenny and Q, they really go out on a limb.
Yeah.
To protect their guy when they're probably both going to be out of jobs or, they could be, put on criminal charges or something for helping him in this situation. And then so I really like that connection. I also really like that they introduced Hinks, and even though he doesn't say anything, and he has a very unsatisfying death. In fact,
yes.
I'm not convinced he is dead. I kept waiting for him to come back. Because this is like an old school badass henchman.
Yes, it is.
Who just seems like he's the kind of guy who should come back around.
Yeah.
And just right from the get go with him squeezing the eyes out of that guy and taking his place, I'm like, God, this is awesome. I love that Spectre's that kind of organization.
Yeah,
that dude probably gave his entire life to them.
Yep.
And it was just ended, and no one batted an eye.
Nope.
It's like, that's just how you roll. That's how Spectre rolls. Even though this felt really tidy to me, I kind of liked that Blofeld didn't die at the end. Which is a really dangerous guy to leave alive.
Yeah.
And I would think if they do one more with James, he would have to factor in the thing about Spectre, when you look at their, squid or whatever their symbol is, we know who the head is. We know who two of the arms were. Yeah. Solace or Quantum and Lashif. But there's all these other tentacles still. Yep. So it kind of makes you wonder, well, that might be cool to see one more. Or maybe, see another Bond chase, if he's riding off into the sunset, have that legacy get passed on in some way.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that you had mentioned was there is a really cool car in this movie. It's just a shame it ended up in the water. Because I think there was a collective groan in the theater.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, oh, that was a cool car. So yeah, I completely agree with you that the 007 swagger's there. I think it's a little long in some parts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Madeline Swan, I think to a point is kind of an interesting character. I don't know if she's a like, because she actually says she doesn't need him.
Yeah.
And then she walks away with him at the end.
Yep.
So, that, But, Bond's supposed to get the girl, right?
Well, yeah, he has to get the girl.
All right. Well, I think that's it for me as far as likes.
All right, let's go ahead and rate this one. So,
let's rate this sucker.
I think this is actually a really good Bond movie, and that's about all I have to say about it, because it is a Bond movie. Nice. And I mean that in both the good and the bad ways. And I think it's filmed really well, and it's very James Bond cool. Like, the swagger's there, like you were saying, and that's just awesome. But it is really long, and I think pacing is a huge problem with this movie, and it really kills the movie for me. I think there's some stuff they could have took out, and they could have shortened this movie by about half an hour, and I probably would have liked it more. I'm gonna go ahead and say rent it.
Ooh, yeah. Nice. Yeah, I think we're on the same page here and agree this time. I think it is too long. I think what's there with 007 is great, but maybe him staring off into the distance and thinking about stuff and not saying it maybe isn't really 007.
Yeah.
But, boy, is the cinematography really good.
Yeah, it's filmed very well.
The song at the beginning sucks, and it does.
Okay.
And for that reason, I'm going to say this is the best rental of the year. Rent it and enjoy it, my friends. Just fast forward through the dull stuff.
Oh, man.
Nothing against that performer, but yeah, what the hell? What is with that awful song at the beginning? Here's the least James Bond kind of song ever.
Oh,
in a really high male octave.
Oh, jeez. All right, Jones. You gotta rate the movie or what?
Yeah, I said it was the best rental of the year.
You haven't said see it, rent it, buy it,
okay,
nothing.
Rent it.
Let's hear it.
Rent it and you'll enjoy it. It's a really good rental.
All right. If anybody else wants to contact us, we always are at our home on the web, Jones.
Yes.
Home on the web. halfpastpodcast.com.
Like us on Facebook.
And rate us on iTunes.
We're on Stitcher and Libsyn.
And if you want to send us some hate mail, or some non-hate mail, I'm okay with that. You can email us at halfpastcast@gmail.com. That's halfpastcast@gmail.com.
Tweet us at halfpastpodcast.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support. Next week, we're going to go on another little break here, and then we're going to get Creed and The Good Dinosaur, and we might have a special guest for Creed, Jones.
Wow, yeah, that would be cool. So is there nothing coming out? A 2-week break?
Well, I believe Hunger Games is coming out.
Do you want to see that last one?
I haven't seen any of them, so...
Well, I'm trying to think of what I've seen. I think I saw the first one.
I saw
and the second
part
one.
of the first one, and I found it unappealing. So
it's kind of a it's kind of a creepy idea, really.
Yeah.
Kids killing kids.
Yeah. So I actually didn't even make it through the first one.
Okay. All right. Sounds about right. That sounds like me in Twilight.
Oh, well, great. I feel like that's unfair to Hunger Games, though.
And Insurgent. Well, he can just group all those together. You know what's not like any of those movies? Maze Runner. Maze Runner blows them all out of the water.
Yeah,
There's
I really
none
like
of this sissy. Everyone's just doing their thing, trying to survive.
Yep.
But they're kicking ass. And there's no, skinny Bella werewolf, lame vampire, lame werewolf nonsense going on.
Nice.
Thanks for ruining werewolves and vampires.
Real nice.
Stephanie. Of course,
wow.
It would be someone named Stephanie too. That's a different podcast.
That is a totally different podcast. This is the Half Past Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonesy.
See you next flick.